comrades, this is Shetty here, and as you guys can tell by the title, inside today's video, I am going to be going over my top 10 most anticipated movies of 2022. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So Ambulance is the newest film by director Michael Bay. The film stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, two actors I like quite a bit. And as far as Michael Bay's films go, for what they are pretty enjoyable. Although out of all the films on my top 10 list, Ambulance is definitely the one I'm the most iffy about. But nonetheless, the movie looks like a lot of fun. And that's kind of all I want in an action flick like this. So hopefully it lives up to my expectations. Morbius is the newest Sony Marvel release after the wildly successful Spider-Man No Way Home and actually pretty decent Venom Let There Be Carnage, and it comes as no surprise that I'm a pretty big fan of vampire movies, and it's very rare we get a big budget film in the subgenre, so that alone piqued my interest. Not to mention, I'm actually a pretty big fan of the Morbius character in the comics. He's one of my personal favorite Marvel villains. I do hope tone-wise they kind of stray away from what the Venom movies are. Again, they're enjoyable, but I think the tone of those movies wouldn't really fit the character of Morbius well. But still, judging from the trailers, it seems like they're going for a completely different tone. I think with an actor like Jared Leto involved, there's going to be some semblance of seriousness throughout the movie. So I'm really excited to see what they do with Morbius, and this hits theaters April 1st, 2022. Disappointment Boulevard is the junior film by director Ari Aster, who previously did Midsommar and Hereditary, two of the best horror films of the 2010s. So needless to say, I am very excited to see what he does with this third film. Now, we virtually know nothing about the plot. All we know is that the film is starring Joaquin Phoenix. He's one of my personal favorite actors. So yeah, I'm really interested to see this movie, and as of right now, we have no confirmed release date, but we probably will get that in the coming weeks. Similar to Disappointment Boulevard, we really know nothing about Bullet Train. All we do know is that David Leitch is helming the project, which makes me incredibly excited to see this movie. Now, he's the man responsible for Atomic Blonde, and while I don't completely love that movie, I think it has some of the best action I've seen in film to date. I think the cast that we're seeing so far is also great. We have Brad Pitt and a ton of other big list A actors. So yeah, that alone is enough to get me to want to see this movie. Prey is the newest installment in the Predator series, and while 2018's The Predator was slightly disappointing, in fact, it's not a very good film, I still am holding out hope for the series. The original is obviously a classic, but I will be the first to defend the 2010 film Predators because I think that's equally as good, if not better, because, you know, that movie's just awesome. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking it out. For what we know about the plot, this is basically just, you know, Predator meets Cowboys vs. Aliens, which sounds awesome to me, so I'm really excited to see what they do with this new installment. Time and time again, the Mission Impossible series has proved itself to be one of the best ongoing action series that we're seeing at the moment. Mission Impossible Fallout was great. It's one of the best films of the series, and seeing how much of the cast and crew is returning for the 7th installment, it makes me incredibly excited to see what they are going to do with Mission Impossible 7. Obviously, Tom Cruise is fantastic in these movies, so I'm really excited to see him return. The only thing that concerns me regarding this is that they're going to try to up themselves once again, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, you know, you want to do something bigger each movie, but it can get to a certain point where it becomes too much. Take the Fast and Furious films, for instance. You know, we got a lot of cool stunt work in those earlier movies, but they kept upping the ante to the point where, like, in the newest movie, they're flying ships to space. I don't think they're going to go that far in Mission Impossible, but I do hope they keep it, you know, relatively set within the world where everything would make sense. But still, I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with this movie, and it's set to hit theaters September 30th. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake was my most anticipated movie of 2021, but as more details have come out about the film, it's dropped slightly down my 2022 list. For instance, as many of you know, Netflix has acquired the rights to the movie, which could either mean two things. One, they thought the movie was good enough and they really wanted to have it on their platform, or two, the studio didn't really think the movie was good enough to release in theaters, so they just sold the rights to some streaming platform. Either way, I'm still excited to see what they're going to do with this movie, because I think even the worst of Texas Chainsaw films have some semblance of entertainment value. Still though, I am somewhat skeptical going into this. Although seeing that Fede Alvarez has been heavily involved with the making of this movie, it does give me some hope that this will be, at the very least, a good remake. And I do think a lot of these remakes or requels, or whatever you want to call them, in recent years, such as, you know, the new Halloween, the new Candyman, all of them have been pretty solid, so hopefully this can keep up that track record. And I do think the little teaser that we got late last year actually, it looks pretty cool actually. So I'm interested to see what they're going to do with this film. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with this film, but I am going to go into it somewhat skeptical because I don't want to get my hopes too much up. Halloween Kills is set to be the definitive end to the Halloween franchise, or so they say. I mean, let's be honest, if the movie does well, they're definitely going to make more sequels. But this will be the final chapter in the David Gordon Green trilogy that started with Halloween 2018, continued with Halloween Kills, which came out October 2021, and then is now ending with Halloween Kills, which comes out October 2022. Now, I didn't talk about Halloween Kills on the channel because I wasn't really doing videos back whenever that came out, but I really enjoyed the movie. In fact, it was my favorite horror film of the year. So needless to say, I am incredibly excited to see what they do with this third installment in the series. Unfortunately, this won't be continuing the one-night arc that we saw in 2 previous movies. This is set to take place several years after, but still, with all the cast and crew returning from those movies for this third installment, I am highly anticipating to see what David Gordon Green and crew are going to do with the story and how they are going to exactly wrap up the whole Laurie Strode, Michael Myers arc. I do think this movie is possibly going to be the best of the entire trilogy, so I am just incredibly excited to see this. The Batman was one of my most anticipated movies of 2021, and now it's one of my most anticipated movies of 2022. At first, I was very opposed to Robert Pattinson being cast as Batman, and I feel kind of bad because I feel like I was a bit harsh in some of my earlier videos. But after seeing him in movies like Good Time and The Lighthouse, I think he's a fantastic actor, so I am really excited to see him as the titular character. Not to mention, I do think in the marketing that we've seen so far, he looks great as the role, and everyone else in the cast looks really solid. I love the gothic vibe that they're going for. It feels like a perfect mix between Nolan and Snyder's films. We got the realism of, obviously, the Nolan trilogy with Christian Bale, but some of the darkness and comic booky aspect of Zack Snyder's version of the Batman character that we saw in the DCU. So it looks like it's going to be a perfect mix between the two of the best Batman. So I'm really excited to see this movie, especially with Matt Reeves helming the project. I think he is a great director. Everything that he's done has been fantastic. So yeah, I am incredibly excited to see this version of the character be brought to the screen. The Batman hits theaters on March 4th. Which brings us to my #1 spot, and my most anticipated movie of 2022 is Jordan Peele's horror film, Nope, which is set to hit theaters in July of 2022. Now, we know nothing about this movie. No plot details, no leaked photos, really nothing. All we have to base the film off of is this poster, which, by the way, looks incredible. But just the sheer fact that this poster has caused so much uproar in the community and so much discussion truly shows how great of a filmmaker Jordan Peele actually is. I love Get Out, and Us is equally as good, if not better. So yeah, I am incredibly excited to see what he's going to do with this film. We do have some rumors regarding the plot. For instance, people are speculating it may have something to do with aliens, which makes me even more excited for that. Just Jordan Peele's take on an alien film sounds incredible to me. Either way, whatever he does with this movie, I am very excited to see it. And guys, that is my top 10 most anticipated movies of the year. Let me know your list down in the comments below. But guys, if you did enjoy it, as always, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. And I will see you guys very soon with some brand new content. This is Shay signing off. Peace out.